Welcome back to the latest episode of the NLB Pod. I'm your host, Dr. Fairbanks Ray Jr. And if you're wondering about shooting, this is the episode for you. Today's guest is all about shooting and helping players develop as a shooter, as a person, building confidence in any and all situations. I got Brianna Garza with me, aka Shooter Shoot 70 on Instagram, if you know her by that. Shooting coaches build a reputation for helping hoopers of all levels understand the mechanics, mindset, and intellectual work of what it takes to become a great shooter. She's not just focused on form, she's focused on building confident, game-ready players who can get their shot off under pressure and knock it down consistently. We're going to dive into a lot about shooting, but just first wanted to say, Brianna, thank you for joining me on the pod this morning.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me. It's gonna be a good one.
Of course, of course. I'll start it out with where did your love for basketball come from and shooting specifically?
Oof, shooting is something that allows anybody of any athleticism to be really successful in this game. If you can catch and shoot and make shots, if you can jump and throw your hands over your head, you're capable of that athletically, then you're capable of becoming a really dangerous player. And so that allowed me to equalize my game across my life, my development, high school, college, despite being undersized, under athletic. And I think I had a knack for teaching it as well. When I first started in my player development journey, the the thing we did to get people's foot in the door was three free 30-minute shooting workouts. And so I mean, my 10,000 hours, right? I was getting all the feet in the door, and I had to figure out how to make somebody a better shooter in 30 minutes. And so, and I got reps and iterated and figured it out and studied and solved problems. And I just am fascinated by the physics and the mechanics and the psychology of shooting. So that's a umbrella version of how shooting became the niche.
So you mentioned a little bit about how you had 30 minutes at the beginning to get people better at better at shooting. What would you say your like teaching, coaching style is like for those people coming in the door when you first got them in versus now when you see your players?
Um, Versus, do you mean like when I was first starting my career, what my kind of philosophy and approach was, and has that changed?
Absolutely, yes.
No, it hasn't. I think because I think in this game we tend to focus a ton on being a great technician before becoming a great teacher. And so I took the opposite approach in that I really wanted to become a great masterful teacher first. And so a lot of my approach to coaching started there. Warmth when you first meet an athlete, when they walk into your space, smiling, them feeling warmth from you is the very first thing. Because psychological safety is a key component in skill acquisition and skill adaptation. We can't adapt movements unless they feel safe to do so psychologically and physically. And so the nuances of teaching are what I focused on at the very beginning of my career. I built those and then knew that through studying the craft and the subject matter itself, the rest of it would fall into place. And so my style of coaching hasn't changed. In fact, I at least hope it's gotten better. That, constantly searching for mastery in this, which is so difficult to do. So approach has stayed the same, but I've gotten better at teaching shooting just as I've learned more.
I like that. I like that. I think that's important. Just continuing to develop, not feeling like you figured it all out. Because the moment you feel like you figured it all out, you're kind of declining. Then you still got. There's always gonna be someone who you're in front of who you're like, whoa, I gotta go back to the drawing board, add to my framework, continue to add to your framework, and develop it over time. So I love that. When it comes to shooting, what would you say some of your main principles are that you want every player in front of you to learn or to develop over time? Things that don't change no matter who's in front of you.
Ooh, good question. There are a couple of ideas in physics that we know that across all shooters, no matter what shape and size they are, that are going to be true, right? The mechanics and the parts of the body that move differently from person to person. That's kind of the secret sauce in teaching this is figuring out how do we get these movements to be repeatable, no matter who the player is in front of us and how differently they move. If they've got some kind of movement, um, what's the word I'm looking for, where they can't do a certain movement because of a previous injury or something like that. That's where we have to wiggle around. But ultimately, to answer your question, is are they moving the ball at the same speed from start to finish? Are Is the basketball and their hips loading down together before the ball moves up? And obviously, like, can they have a clean follow through coming out of their hands? If their hands look different each rep, then it doesn't matter how perfect their power, their energy transfer, or their speed or anything is. If they can't get their hands to help them shoot the ball straight in a straight line, then none of it is really going to matter anyway. But foundationally, the follow through, making sure that you can shoot the ball in a straight line over and over again, that the ball moves at the same speed from start to finish, and that everything loads down together. Those are three like core concepts that every shooter needs.
I like that. And of those three, are there maybe one to two, like one common mistake you see amongst, like, let's say younger players, like people first starting, beginners just starting out?
Oh, yes. I mean, beginners just starting usually have like chaos for hands, like because it's just such a weird movement. Like, can you think of another movement that even mimics shooting at all?
I'm thinking of like a golf swing.
No, well,
Not,
you don't
not,
swing a golf club,
oh yeah,
right? Like,
oh,
I hear you.
yeah, I was just thinking like the mechanics of like how variable it can be. But yeah, for shooting, no.
Yeah. Like nothing, right? Like, and I hear you on the golf swing as far as it just being totally strange. You'd never do that movement at any other time in your life. Like shooting's like that. And so ultimately, I mean, hands, yeah, are chaos for a lot of new shooters, but really, it's just they don't understand they don't understand shooting. They don't understand the body or the whys or why they should hold their hands a certain way when they catch the ball or why they need to move it at the same speed. And so that's what most shooters across the board, even really good shooters, when they go into slumps and can't, and it takes them super long to pull themselves out of it, is because they just don't understand the whys behind the movement. And it's really hard to improve upon something that you don't understand.
Hmm. So is that, would you say that's a big part of like your philosophy is like you want your players to understand the whys behind, all right, this is why you're missing short, or this is why you're sure you're having a hard time getting it off, or whatever the situation may be. Like you have your players understand what's going on and how you're going to address it.
Yeah, absolutely. We Part of the way that I teach, at my 2 day and my 4 day immersive groups in the summertime is we put them in the classroom, and then I have them on the shooter shoot training app doing pre-session and post-session plans, all for this understanding of why. Because like in 2 days or in 4 days, like I'm not gonna recreate habits for anybody. Am I gonna introduce their body to much easier movements and they're going to understand their movements way better? Absolutely. But now without that framework of understanding, they can't go on and create new habits
Mhm.
out of these movements, right? They can't understand why they're missing. Oh, I'm missing short. Let me feel for that. And so we teach them um, to introduce themselves to movements in different ways, specifically in the way that we teach them to be better learners. So there's a concept in not instructional design, in skill acquisition and skill adaptation called deliberate practice. And it's the process of taking a micro skill and really improving inside of the macro skill, just focusing that 1 day on this micro skill. So for example, um, moving the ball at the same speed from start to finish. um, Inside of shooting, there's 100 different things we can think about, right? And so if I just have them go to a workout and say, I don't even care if you miss or make these shots, today we're getting better at the micro skill of moving the ball at the same speed from start to finish, miss or make. And then the next day we'll hit another micro skill. And the next day we'll hit another one. And then it's teaching them to see and find which ones to look for in their own body as they go on this, self-discovery thing that has to happen if you're going to get to mastery.
I like that. I like that. It's almost like I see parallels in what you do in skill acquisition and teaching shooting with like physical therapy. And I'm like, all right, you're trying to get to here, whether it's running again after an ACL tear or jumping to trying to get to jumping, but you're injured or something's come up where you can't do that right now. But we have to develop the qualities to help you get to those things. So we know we have to build lower body strength. We have to build core stability. We have to build your ability to pop up and off the ground and trying to reverse engineer that by giving you like almost like microdosing of a little bit of what you need for the end game and trying to reverse engineer that. So it sounds kind of similar. It's like you give them little bits and pieces of what they need, and over time, as they get more reps, more variety, it'll get you to the end game as long as you're consistent with it.
Beautiful.
Love it.
Beautiful.
Love it. Love it. Love it. I want to ask, so like when I walk into the gym, at least when I was younger, when I used to do first thing you get in, you get up form shots, you start to think about trying to find your rhythm, find your flow. What are your thoughts? I've also seen some other people who are like, I don't like form shooting. I think you don't have the time to um you're not gonna have that kind of time in the game to prepare, like find the rim, like have nobody in front of you. What are your thoughts on form shooting, and how would you, if you don't like it, how do you like to get your players warmed up to get ready to shoot?
Well, I mean, form shooting is very broad as a term, right? So it depends on what you mean by form shooting. I wouldn't at all say that I'm in opposition to it. I'm a warm-up shooter personally. Like even I know all of the science and the mechanics and the this and the that about shooting, but like it takes me like kind of finding it at first to really perform well. So if I just go straight into a pickup game um, and I haven't warmed up at all. Like not, not even shooting up and down on a line, right? It doesn't have to necessarily be on a basket. Like it's even just finding your connections, your energy transfer, all of that. Yeah, I'll like brick. It's embarrassing to be a shooting coach and miss shots, and I'll brick like my first 3 or 4 shots if I don't get a chance to warm up. And so when you say form shooting, like it depends on what you're talking about. The form shooting where it's just one hand holding the ball, standing right by the basket, and then shooting from there. I think there's a time and a place for it, but very little time and place for that because that doesn't translate. There's never a time in a game where you're using one hand, unless it's a really advanced shot, right? For a really, really advanced player, there's never a time when you're not using your other hand as part of your shot. So mirroring your hands to make sure they work together is really important. Different exercises for different problems that athletes are overcoming. So I have a lab work series that's actually inside of the app as well. And they're form type shots that are like prescriptions for diagnosed problems. So if an athlete has an energy transfer problem, there's like 3 lab work exercises: boomers, in and ups, and slow flows. Like if an athlete has energy transfer problems, those are the 3 pieces of quote unquote form shooting that they're going to do. Whereas if their teammate just can't shoot the ball in a straight line, we're going to probably give them line drops and boomers. If a teammate has hard time getting the ball lifted up through their face, then we put them in something called Larry Birds, or in line drops or lever trading or something like that. And so those all those exercises I just gave you are type form shooting type things, but um, yeah, as far as doing just one-handed shots under the rim like this, we want to find movements that are a bit more translatable.
I like it. I like it. I like that. I like the approach. I just think, there's a lot of people who like say they get like 300 makes up, 400 makes up, and there's a lot of it's just like close to the rim and just doing like we're just shooting like close shots. I'm like, I don't know if that really gonna help you translate to the game. But speaking of
No.
translating to the game, how do you like prepare players for in practice to in game, like performing in games? Like what's your process on getting them ready for performing in the games?
Yeah, I mean, when you can provide defense, that's obviously ideal, right? Guarded reps where they're going to be put in the same positions, same action, the same types of movement, same places on the floor that they're going to be getting a lot of their shots from, or where they want to be getting a lot of their shots from. So obviously providing those reps where they have to make a live read and they have to shoot over a hand in their face and they have to just get comfortable with somebody that close to them and still finding a way to get their body to repeat the movements. That's obviously one huge piece. Um, Outside of that, the psychological piece is something I do with players only once they've reached a certain level of mastery. Do we prime them psychologically to get more emotional reps? So, what I mean by that is I'll ask my players, just to be honest. So, you hooped, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. So, if you had to just be honest, um, who was your most hated defender? Like the person that checked into the game and you were like, if you're just giving respect where it's due, you're like, I don't want that. But who would that be for you?
Yeah, and in high school, one of my teammates actually, when we match up in
Yeah.
practice, um, he was like he could just get low into you and like just make you uncomfortable, turn you all the time and hated long arms, like just did not enjoy going up against him.
Yeah. What was his name?
Kylo,
Hilo?
Kylo Brown.
Kylo Brown. Okay. Um, so yeah, if I was working you out and you're at this level of mastery in shooting and now it's time to level you up, I'm priming you to like take a moment and see him in front of you every single time. Every single rep. And that's hard to do. Like it's hard to put yourself there, but I've never met a pro or worked out a pro that wasn't a little bit crazy.
Mm.
And so being able to sit inside of that where your makes are going to mean more, your misses are going to frustrate you more, and being willing to sit inside of that emotional, physiological response. That's the closest or the best model that I've created for in-game translation on top of the defense and all of that. Once I start shaping my players' practices like that. And you can't do it every day. There you pick and choose the times where you put them there, depending on how they respond to you when you're priming them. Like, are they having a good day? Like, if they come in there and they're having a bad day, obviously that's not a time to put them into any sort of emotional distress. So that's part of understanding them as a human and as a teacher. But those are two ways, high level defense and reads that are gonna mimic the game, and secondly um, finding the time and place where you can get those emotional reps. So now they go into the game and it's not their first time with this high physiological care, this pressure, this sort of response.
That's intense. That's intense. I never thought about that, but that's cool. It
Yeah.
makes you go to a place. Like you have to go to that place.
Wait, bro, it's so cool. Like when you go into that place, like with not just a pro, like a high level athlete, when you stand there and you like just because you have to as the teacher, like you have to be willing to go there with them and
Mhm.
like stay inside of that intensity. And yeah, it's a cool. I almost feel like this is probably what actors feel like
Yeah.
whenever they really let themselves get into the role, and feel that personality, that person they're embodying. Yeah, it's intense is a good word for it.
Yeah. No, I think Heath Ledger, when he was doing the Joker role for The Dark Knight, that's what he would do something like that. And like just put himself in
Yeah,
dark, dark place to play the role as Joker. That's why it felt so real when we was watching it.
yeah, yeah. Heath Ledger, man, also that's a heck of an example there.
Yeah. Sorry. It's the first thing that came to mind.
He did do that though. They did report on
Yeah,
that.
it's the first thing that came to mind. All right, we'll take it back to shooting on a little lighter note. Um, obviously, shooting off the dribble. Are there any differences in shooting off the dribble versus shooting off the catch in your eyes in terms of how you teach it?
I mean, yeah, I mean, plenty. Shooting off the dribble is always going to be more difficult, because it involves so much more movement. Before there's a lot of players who find shooting off the dribble easier than shooting off the catch because of the natural rhythm off the floor. But as far as the types of shots you're getting into, they tend to obviously be more advanced than a catch and shoot. Um, but yeah, I teach catch and shoot first because you're never going to be more dangerous than you are when you first catch the basketball. And so if I can teach you to be a threat off the catch, then even if you're more comfortable shooting off the dribble, fine, then go get a bucket off the dribble, but nobody's going to run you off the line and you're not going to have long closeouts that you can attack and manipulate until you're a threat off the catch right away. And so if every single time your hands touch the ball, people have to respect that, then the rest of your game opens up. And so I teach them differently. I mean, just in that they're different movements. You got to be a bit more dynamic off the dribble, but the concepts are the same. Try to move the ball at the same speed from start to finish. Shoot the ball in a straight line. Understand your center of gravity and how to push it straight down, depending on what angle you're going. Because it's really interesting a lot of the time, even if it's a catch and shoot, if it's one off the move, it's very rare that you're shooting at a target that isn't moving right before you shoot at it, right? So because your body is moving, so the rim is actually not like just a still, you're still, and the rim is still, so you can lock in onto your target. That rarely happens for players, and so whether it's off the dribble or off the catch, anytime we involve movement, a lot of it is can you push your energy straight down into the ground from whatever angle you're moving into the shot on. So Rob Fodor, who's a good friend of mine, I don't know if you've heard his name before.
Hmm.
He's a shooting coach for the Miami Heat,
Hmm.
and he went as far to study the anatomy and physiology of cats and how they relate balance because they always land on their feet,
Hmm.
right? And so he like into his teachings that he shared, he shares very generously with anybody who asks. He, talked about levers of movement and how to make sure um, that our energy can move from side to side back straight down into the floor, and how much that impacts accuracy and ability to shoot the ball in the direction and with the precision that you want it to. And so off the dribble, off the catch, concepts are basically the same. Off the dribble is going to be a bit more advanced in the movements, but ultimately, can you move the ball in a straight line? Can you move it at the same speed? Can you get your center of gravity moving vertically the way you need it to?
Studying cats to learn about how to that's different levels of stuff. Different.
Bro, he is different. He is so different.
No, I asked the question came from because I feel like for myself, shooting off the catch so much easier than shooting off the dribble. I've been intentionally forcing myself to shoot more pull-ups because I'm like I feel good about shooting off the catch, but off the dribble, I think getting your center of mass to be able to produce force going from horizontal to vertical and going down and up. I think that's like the hardest thing to teach or hardest thing, one of the hardest traits to teach. So I know I've just been putting myself in a lot of different situations to work on that to be a little more dangerous off the with the ball in my hands. With the
Yeah, that's cool. And then
go
go
ahead.
ahead, go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, yeah, well, just shooting off the dribble, like for boys, for men, tends to be a whole different, not a whole different, but a lot of the times, like men have two different types of off the dribble shots, right? Ones that come smooth off the ground and ones that hang off the ground because men tend to be able to create space vertically more so than women can. Not saying no women can do that, but just as a rule. And so that's a way for you to experiment with, like as you're working off the dribble, like take turns between when is the jumper going to be a hang like where you let yourself hang in the air for a little bit and create space going up, versus when you need to get into your off the dribble jumper and just have it be fast off the floor, like that have the same sort of mechanics or physics, momentum as your catch and shoot. That's always fun for I have boys that are super athletic at some of my sessions. I have them experiment with both of those, which can unlock a lot for even just having those two things in your bag.
I like it. I like it. I will experiment with that. Um, in terms of mobility, are there routines or areas that you feel like players need to get warmed up, ready to go? Or are there areas that tend to get tighter that can impact shooting mechanics or shooting flows?
Yes. Um, well, as far as warm-ups go, obviously like your upper body, hands, shoulders, lats, all of that, like that seems like an obvious one, but one that's not so obvious for players is their dorsiflexion of their ankle.
Hmm.
Um, because we coach, and obviously, hip mobility is huge too. Like if you can't sit into your hips, it's gonna be hard for you to be a really good athlete
Uh-huh.
at all levels. But dorsiflexion, so for those of you watching or listening that don't know, dorsiflexion is like if this is my ankle and my foot, it's like how far can my knee come over my toe? And because we coach athletes on stay on your toes, stay on your toes, stay on your toes, stay on your toes. What happens is they'll get on their toes, but rather than getting into dorsiflexion, their knees and hips will just move forward. And so it's this really uncomfortable, unbalanced thing where just the baby balls of their feet are gripping the ground and nothing else. And so instead, what I teach is if you have the flexibility for your heels to touch the ground, do that. You're still going to jump off your toes. Your weight is still going to be more, 90% of it on the front side of your foot. But I find that athletes who lack dorsiflexion really struggle with energy transfer off the floor.
Yeah.
And so that would be a warm up routine is um, like doing knee touches to the wall, like putting your foot 3 inches away from the wall, and leaning forward, trying to get your knee, I'm sorry, your heel to stay on the ground, while leaning your knee forward and trying to get it to tap the wall over and over again, just to loosen up that dorsiflexion of the ankle. That allows you your relationship to the floor to be much stronger because our relationship to the surface area of the floor, the more surface area of the floor we can grab with our feet, the better balance we're going to have.
Hmm.
Um, and so that has been really a really helpful just place of warming up, of unlocking. That helps. That has been really helpful. And that just recently, I just kind of had those things click. Maybe even like 3 weeks ago, I was like, "Oh my gosh, you don't have any dorsiflexion. Let's just get you some of that." And then it really worked. It really worked out
For
after
sure.
that.
No, I think I also work on like people's ability to like spread their foot out and be able to get some motion from the foot as
Mm.
well to help with that dorsiflexion. You mentioned everyone being on their toes, and that can lead to a lot of like knee pain, a lot of like knee discomfort. So I'm like teaching people how to sit back and get some weight through their posterior chain. I think it helps them find balance one and just offload the knees a little bit because you're going to be running, jumping, sprinting maybe add a lot throughout the game. So I like just working at their foot too and getting them to be able to pronate and feel what that's like to have the middle of their arch hit the ground and then going the other way to be able to move through a full range of motion. That helps get some of that dorsiflexion back too.
Amazing. And that posterior chain thing that you mentioned is really cool. Is really simple and really
Mhm.
cool as far as like just drawing attention to that. Like because like a lot of those of the athletes we're talking about that lean too far on their toes, all of their weight's bore on their quads,
Yeah.
right? And so they're not, yeah, sitting into that, and which makes me think of like the whole thing of shooting a basketball that's so difficult for athletes is that most athletes are trying to use their muscles to shoot a basketball, right? Rather than getting their body to find positions that use physics to do it instead. So being able to stack your chain all the way up and then the timing of when you place the basketball into that chain to where
Mhm.
it just goes straight up your body and into the hoop. Um, we can't achieve those positions without some of the things we're talking about, the flexibility of being able to sit into your stack, your ankles, hips, and shoulders, and to come up strongly so your ankles, hips, and shoulders stack up in a way that allows physics to do the work for you. And this is why like 9-year-old, we can see some 9-year-olds that can shoot NBA threes, right? Is because they can move physics through their body.
Yeah.
Whereas I have some 17-year-old girls who I've worked with that are, super strong, lift all the time. but haven't been able to figure out how to shoot a three-pointer. It's because they're trying to use their muscles to shoot a basketball and not physics instead.
You gotta be relaxed. Let your body do what it does, and everything else
Just
will follow.
relax,
Everything else will
you
follow.
know.
Um, as we start to wrap up here, can you what, tell us a little bit more about your app and some of the camps that you're doing right now?
Hmm. The Shooters Shoot training app. Um, it's by far the best thing I've ever created. It's the whole culmination of all of this. I mean, my life's focus after, I mean, once I graduated high school, I went to school and got my degree in psychology, got a degree in sports psych and skill acquisition, and then got a degree in instructional design and human performance tech, all understanding I was beginning with the end in mind. And so this is this is the thing. And so it's a workout waiting for you every day. And well, I offer everybody the first 7 days on the app for free. Because accessibility is important. And the meat and potatoes of like the foundations are going to be inside of those first 7 days. And everybody should be able to learn how to shoot. It's such an empowering place. And so in the app, there's 5 pieces to each day, a piece of science that I map out so people can understand what they're really looking for. And then they're assigned one thing, that deliberate practice thing that we were talking about earlier as well. So on day one, for example, I give them some science on the body stack that we just talked about with the physics, right, of moving energy through your body. And then their one thing for their entire workout that day is I don't even care if you make shots. I want you to get your body stacked every single time. And then we move them through the warm up and the workout. And then the very last thing they're assigned each day is an act of light. So, one thing we didn't get to talk on is a bit more of the psychology of shooting. The psychology of performance is people who rank higher on overall wellness scales across the board. That's highly correlated with higher performance measures. And so people who, on the flip side, are lower on their wellness scale, they tend to perform a little worse. And so in some, happy shooters tend to make more shots. And so, how can I use this app, this daily thing, to continue to improve wellness holistically? And that's where the act of light comes in. So, things like gratitude. Like on day one, it's, take 60 seconds as you're walking out of the gym today, just to text somebody a little piece of gratitude. Day two is go pick up 3 pieces of trash outside today, just because it's the right thing to do.
Mhm.
So little things that shape them as humans and not just as shooters. So that's what the app looks like. We tie it into all of the camps that we run in the summertime, small group sessions. So I don't take any more than 24 athletes in a session so that the feedback is protected. And we tie in both synchronous learning and asynchronous learning with the app. Because yeah, my goal is that I mean, I take it personal. Like y'all don't get to come to a shooter shoot clinic, right, or camp or event with me and not become a better shooter because then what kind of product am I really creating? And so that's the gist of it. I care very deeply about it. It's my absolute dream job that I don't take for granted. A moment of time whenever I get to create or be on court. Yeah, it's an absolute blessing. So that's the spiel. Come to a camp, everybody.
Love that. And she's has camps all over the country. So if she comes to your city, pull up to
All
that
over the world.
all over the world, all over the world. So if she comes to your
All
company,
over the world. We international. We
she
international now,
global.
my guy.
Global. She global. She's global. And all right, last thing. Where can one piece of advice you'd give to any hooper who wants to be known as a or become a better shooter? What would you tell them?
Oh man. The greatest shooters I've ever worked with, or the kids that have become the greatest shooters I've ever worked with, have the absolute audacity of self-belief, the understanding that they're gonna miss some shots sometimes, but ultimately, like they still have the audacity to call themselves a shooter, and then go do the work that is associated with that. And so the best piece of advice is if you're, nothing is going to replace the reps, right? But there's plenty of people who are doing the reps who don't have the audacity of self-belief. And leaning into that and letting that be hard is the very best thing that any shooter at any age could do for themselves.
I like that. I like that. Irrational confidence, almost delusion.
Irrational confidence, irrational confidence. Yes, beautiful.
I love it. Where can people find you, support you, learn more about Find the app? Let us know about that.
Yeah, so Shooters X Shoot 70, as you mentioned, is my Instagram. Tag the app if you just want to go look it up right away. It's just shootersxshoot.app is the website. And we've got some really exciting things that I will share offline with you. Maybe we can come back and talk about them after I share them that are going to be associated with the app that are like just unbelievable. So continue to check in their shootersxshoot.app. And then for camps and stuff, it's my Instagram handle, shootersxshoot70.training is the website there, but we put all of that information on my Instagram. So really accessible for everybody. But that's the where and the what. And the 70, if you're wondering, not that you asked, is is 70% or better, gets you the green light. So if you are 70% or better, no defense on your reps, then you can fairly and safely say, I'm a shooter.
I was gonna ask, but I like it. I like it. I like it. So I'll put those all in the show notes as well. You guys have no excuse to not get better at shooting, whether you listen to this episode. Go get the app. You got 7 days free. If she comes to
Come
your
on.
country or your city, pull up to a camp, get better at shooting, learn more about it. But Brianna, really just appreciate you taking the time to be on the pod and getting to meet you for the first time. Uh, Best of luck with all the camps moving forward. I know you're Miss Worldwide right now, so hopefully you get some time to uh reflect as well and enjoy the time as well.
Appreciate you, man.
Of course. We'll see you on the next episode. Peace.